You know who it is, your favorite person's favorite person. Great to have you here with me. As always, everyone, just another opportunity to share great thoughts with great people and having a better understanding about what's going on with us today as you know it. If you all have no idea who I am and you're coming across, let's say, this recording, you're watching it live, you end up hearing it on the podcast. My name is Sam Pearson, the second celebrity mindset coach and your favorite speaker's favorite speaker. Essentially, I help people find the best version of themselves and develop themselves from the inside out, from the neck up. Today, I'm really excited about the person I get a chance to have a conversation with. Aigne Goldsby is not just anyone, someone special and a two-percenter, as I said before. You'll understand what that means in a moment. But let me just let you know who you're getting ready to spend some time with. Is currently a staff attorney for the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, PURA, within the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Thus far, in her legal practice, Attorney Goldsby has gained extensive experience in pretrial and trial proceedings. She has taken and defended over 200 depositions and completed 4 jury trials to verdict. Attorney Goldsby's clients have included insurance companies, healthcare providers, municipalities. Hello, I can speak. Product manufacturers and school districts. Attorney Goldsby is also the founder of Black Esquire, LLC, which we're definitely going to get into, an organization that provides opportunities and resources for current and future Black, Indigenous, people of color legal professionals. Through Black Esquire, Attorney Goldsby is a law school coach and helps pre-law folks get into law school and understand how they can achieve as their lawyer dreams using the value method, which we'll absolutely get into in a moment. Please welcome, wherever you are, clap your hands, stump your feet for attorney Aigne Goldsby. Thank you very much. How you doing?
I'm good, Steve. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. My apologies. I don't know, I got tongue twisted a little bit in there, but thank you for your patience and for all you're doing, for taking the time to be here with me right now. So let's hop right into it. I mentioned in your bio, in your introduction, that you are, some like to call it, a two-percenter. And we had a brief conversation about that. But for those who have no idea what I'm talking about, what does that mean? What does it mean to be part of the 2% in your profession and how you got there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those facts that a lot of people don't know. So only 5% of lawyers in the United States are Black, and less than 2% of them are Black women. So when Stan talks about me being part of that 2%, that's the Black women. It's actually less than that. It's 1.98% to be exact. So the journey was definitely difficult, I will say, to get here, but that's one of the big reasons why I started my business, Black Esquire. We need more of us in this profession, and I'm happy and so excited to be here and talk to you more about my journey.
I want to dig into that a little bit, if you don't mind. I don't think people understand what numbers like that mean. Once upon a time, I lived in Mexico. I lived on the border of Mexico. And at the time, it was 90. I would tell people it's 97% Mexican or Mexican-American Hispanic. And again, like a very small percentage of everybody else, instead of like 1%. And people are like, oh, yeah, okay. But when you actually think about numbers like that, out of 100%, so in your case, out of 100% of the people in this country, less than 2% are Black women. What inspired you to want to be an attorney?
Yeah, honestly, I think it was one of those things when I was growing up. I always realized I had these natural talents of talking, right? I like to talk a lot as a kid. And so as attorneys, we do that, right? That's also why I'm here. But I think I realized at a young age that I had this kind of heart for advocacy, right? So it wasn't so much just talking, but I really wanted to help other people. So using my voice to help other people was something that I did, right? I was a cheerleader. I used my voice that. I was the drum major of my high school marching band. I had to use my voice and lead other people doing that. And so when I was in college trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I ended up majoring in religion, which was, a journey by itself. But I found out that the guy who ended up murdering my father, he was shot and killed in a drug deal in Philadelphia when I was 6 months old. And so at that time, I didn't know a lot of details about his case. It was just something that my family didn't talk a lot about. But I found out that the guy who murdered him was trying to get out of prison. He filed what's called a petition for writ of habeas corpus. It's a bunch of legal jargon, but basically says that this person believes that they were detained improperly. So he was trying to get out of prison to say that his lawyer lawyer didn't represent him properly, and he wasn't supposed to be there, is the short version of it. And so that got me a little bit more interested, I think, in the law. I started reading cases about his case, figuring things out. And there were so many things I didn't know, words I didn't understand. And it's kind of funny because when I finally did get into law school, I ended up working for a judge as a law clerk, and he literally did this type of work, looking at these petitions for writ of habeas corpus. So it's kind of funny, like that back then I had no idea what it was, but a few years later, here I am working on these. And so it's just like, one of those things where I say it doesn't matter where you come from. Circumstances can be very difficult, but like, you can still do it. And here I am. I'm proof of that. Part of that 2% of Black women lawyers, and I'm excited.
Whoa. It's, sometimes in spending time with elite professionals in whatever realm, I call it, there's a brotherhood, sisterhood, fraternity, sorority of it. Once you get to that level of expertise, and sometimes people may even underestimate, let's say, the struggle or the process in order to get to be a part of that 2%. And with mental flight school and discussing mindset, we'll get, let's say, a little bit deeper into that. But if you don't mind sharing, what are some things that you had to overcome in law school and the process of being an attorney along the way that most folks, it wouldn't even occur to them that you would have had to go through this?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, I think, barriers that are coming to place. Like, I'll start with even before getting to law school. Let's start at the law school application process, right? Okay. There's a test called the LSAT, the Law School Admissions Test. And statistically, people of color tend to not do as well on this exam. And so I find a lot of clients that I work with just have difficulty with standardized tests generally, right? So if you didn't do well on your SATs, it's probably more likely that you won't do as well on the LSAT. It's this multiple choice test. It's made up by this group of people, and most of them don't have the same life experiences that maybe you and I had. And so when we go in to take these tests, it's already biased against us, to be honest. And so then we have to take this test, be compared against other people, and then compete for a certain number of slots. And let's not talk about the financial barriers that are in place. It's really expensive to take the LSAT. It's $200 just to take the exam itself. Most people pay for tutors, right? And if you can't afford a tutor and you want to study on your own, that leaves you at a disadvantage. And your score is generally how you get scholarships to the law schools, right? So the higher score, usually the more money you get. So just think about that, right? If you don't have a job, or if your parents don't have the ability to pay for you to take this test, I will say they do offer some financial aid. The Law School Admissions Council does have some ability to do that. But there are a lot of people that fall in that bracket that just don't have a lot of money, and they still may not qualify. So there are all these financial barriers in place before you even get to law school. But let's assume you got through all of that, you did the best that you could, and you get in. When you get there, you are likely going to be one of very few people. The statistics are what they are for a reason. So if only 5% of lawyers are Black, think about how many law students there are that are going to be Black in your law school classroom at that time. And then you got to learn with all of them, right? You got people that don't come from maybe where you come from. When you're in these classes talking about very difficult topics, I'll get to some more specific things that I experienced in a second, but I can tell you, it is really difficult. I've talked to clients that have literally teachers in their law school classrooms that have used the N-word, put the N-word on their final exam, and you're supposed to perform. How as a Black person are you supposed to perform in that environment when you're reading something like that on your law school exam? Or how are you supposed to perform, right, with other students in your classroom when they're constantly ridiculing you or telling you that you don't belong there, or you only got there because of affirmative action? That's just a small piece of it.
Do you feel, I'm going to go back just a little bit. Do you think that some folks shy away from the LSAT simply because of cost and simply because of knowing what the standardized test system is all about? Do you think some people go, not forget, but obviously they're the folks who do what you did and pursue that journey. Do you think there's a number of folks who go, you know what? No, I don't even I can't play with the $200 just to take a test that doesn't promise me anything?
Yeah, I think that that's a huge barrier. The other thing about it too, Stan, is Like, that's just one part of the application, the test. You have to pay for your CAS report, that stands for the Credential Assembly Service, which is $195, which works with the law school applications to assemble all of your stuff together. Then you have individual applications for each law school. Those could be $50, those could be $100, right? And if you want to, increase your chances, you want to apply to more schools, right? So it's a very, very expensive endeavor. But I also think, some people just feel like it's not attainable just because they don't see a lot of lawyers that look like them. That's already going to be a thing. And then some people think, well, I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the capability, but you do. In order to get into law school, taking aside all the costs and everything, you literally only need a 4-year college degree in anything. You don't have to major in pre-law. Don't have to major in poli-sci. It can be whatever it is that you want. But so long as you have that 4-year degree, you will be eligible to apply to law school if you take that law school admissions test and handle all that other stuff. But some people, I think, just see all of those details and they can get lost. But beyond that, it's confusing. Sometimes people don't even know that these scholarships are available, or the fee waivers are available, right? So I spent a lot of my time just educating pre-law students about what is available to them, what resources they can actually get to help them better their chances to get in.
Right. So as a law school coach, obviously I feel like this story, all of the stories are part of you deciding, this is how I want to help. This is how I can not put my money in my intellectual property where my mouth is, like really, moving for change. What helped you persevere during those times? Now we'll obviously get into, let's say, the mindset or your determination, whatever it is. How did you persevere? Not obviously, we're talking about through that entire process before you even get in there. And then you talk about being in law school and what that entailed, in words on papers, being in classrooms where there are really divisive conversations, and quite possibly an environment that seeks to maybe silence you in some circumstances and situations, especially when your numbers are the same as everyone else's. How did you persevere? What are a couple things that you did to help you stay the course?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost in this process, and I say this to a lot of my clients, is to just focus on your mindset first. You gotta feel like you deserve to be there. You need to feel like you belong in that space first. Then when you can control that and you kind of have a control of this, okay, I can do this. I can see myself there. Then it really is during the process when these things happen, because they are going to happen. They just are, right? That's when you reach out to your network. You have mentors, people that have been there before you. You have sponsors. Those are people that speak up for you when you're not in the room, right? To make sure that you are being considered for opportunities that you should be considered for, right? And then you've got family members and other friends and other things like that. But I always encourage people to find a network of people that support you. Have a personal board of directors is what I like to call it, right? Some of that's going to be friends and family, right? But like, seriously, think about yourself. If you're at the head of a board table, who would you want voting for you? Who would you want to be a part of your organization? And that's going to be your crew. That's who you go to when some of these events happen. Sometimes I have people that are in my law school classrooms, right? I used to be the president of our local Black Bar Association here in Connecticut, the George W. Crawford Black Bar Association. And I tell you, that organization was everything in law school and while I've been practicing, right? You got the Black Law Students Association at each of these law schools as well, which should be a great community for you to be able to work with other like-minded individuals, I'll say, to make sure that you kind of have that support, right? You're all kind of on that same journey. You might be a little bit different. Everybody comes from different places, but you at least have that same sort of Black experience in the specific law school. And hopefully those are going to be people that you can use for support when you need it.
Right. I love that. For those of you all listening, watching, you said, your own board of directors. I want folks to write that down, remember that down. Sometimes we look at companies and we go, wow, they're really successful, but we don't pay attention to the things that they do that help make them successful or powerful, because success is relative. There are ups and downs and ebbs and flows. But when you said a board of your own personal board of directors, that spoke really loudly, because it seems like that's something that's really intentional. Like, you get to pick your board of directors, right?
Exactly. That's who you want at your table, right? They're going to be able to help you. They're going to be able to speak up for you, right? And that even goes partly back to my sort of value method that
I
you
was just about
mentioned,
to ask about
Dan.
it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what I find too, especially, a lot of people have a hard time talking about themselves. That's why I said taking that first initial step and just realizing like you belong there, right? You are amazing. You are excellent. We are all excellent at something. So when I talk to my clients and ask them, like, okay, think back to even just the law school application, right? You have to write a personal statement and literally convince a group of people you don't know that you've never met before why you should be in that seat over somebody else. And I think a lot of people just don't really think about themselves that way. Like, oh my goodness, I have all these skills, right? I'm great and I'm amazing, but they don't know how to say it. So I came up with this Black Esquire value method. It's an acronym which stands for using your voice to advocate so others can learn and understand your excellence. That's using your voice to advocate so others can learn and understand your excellence. Like I said, we are all excellent at something, and many of us are excellent at a lot of things. But we have to be able to articulate it to those that matters when it counts. We have to use our voice. We have to speak up for ourselves. And especially as lawyers, we have to advocate. Literally, we as lawyers advocate for our clients. So why not advocate for yourself? Then that other piece of learning and understanding is key,
Yeah.
because you have to realize that you can say a lot of different things. Sometimes people though don't get it. Sometimes you have to say things differently to different people. So you have the ability to control the narrative, to make sure it's perceived to these people who you're talking to, so that they learn it and they understand it. And that's really it, Stan. That to me, I think that's the magic of everything. That value piece and being able to communicate it when it matters, you're going to be golden. To me, that's the key to success.
Wow. Being able to communicate what you need to, starting with yourself is what it feels like you're saying. Who's your ideal client? I know obviously folks that may be interested in law school or feel like they have what it takes, or that they want to get more involved and do exactly what you've been able to do and continue doing. Who's your ideal client? Who are folks that need you or don't even know they need you yet, but they need you? Who are they?
Literally, if you are thinking about law school, if you're not even sure you want to go to law school and it's in your mind, call me. Let me help you. Let me put you on that path to success, because I guarantee you can do it. Like I said, I work with BIPOC pre-law and law students. I will work with anybody though who needs my help, but I am definitely drawn towards those Black women, that 2%, because I know how difficult it is to be in this space, because I was you, right? And so I want to be an encouragement to every Black woman and anybody who had this dream for that JD, for that Esquire, to tell them that they can absolutely do it.
Let's share a couple more questions, and I promise I'll leave you alone. What's one of your most proud moments? And let's say, yeah, I'll leave it right there. What's one of your most proud moments?
So you know what? I had one that is fairly recent, and it's going to seem maybe odd, but maybe not. I'll tell you a brief story. So after the murder of George Floyd, like many of us, I mean, I was in a tough mental space. I was just ending my presidency for the Black Bar Association. So typically we have this big speech and big annual dinner. I didn't get a chance to do that, but that was the first time that I actually went to a protest and actually like made signs and marched for something that I cared about. So it was a group of Black women attorneys, Black women, that 2%, that literally marched the streets of Hartford, walked on the steps of the Supreme Court in Connecticut, raised our fist, and so proudly stood in silence for 9 minutes to honor this man who was murdered. And it was the most magical feeling I have ever felt. Obviously, like I've been through a lot just to get to where I am, but it was that power of being with the other Black women. And then mind you, I'm seeing the streets filled with other people, right? No, people that don't look like us, but that were there to support the cause that we were there for. And that just meant so much. It was so powerful. And that told me like that this is what it's about. Like, we can do so much. We are so powerful as Black people, as Black women, as Black women attorneys. And to see that we were able to lead something just so magical, to me just spoke volumes. That to me said, listen, I can do anything in the world right now. And I mean, I've done some things since then, but that was a big life changing moment for me for sure.
Congratulations. That's amazing. Let's see. I'm sure that you're an observant person. I think you don't get to be someone in your profession, especially at a high level, that doesn't find themselves being observant. So someone who pays attention. Is there anything that, as you observe, you think we can do this better? Well, if you don't mind sharing some of those, or a couple, or one, if any, something where you see things happening, you're like, if we could just do this better.
Yeah, there's so many things, right? And so even with my business and with a lot of my spare time, I'm very big on diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. I'm on probably every committee you can think of, because to me, that's really important. I think when you say, and I don't know if you mean we as Black people or we as people in general, but what I do think we need to do overall as a society is to work more together. There's too many silos, too many people doing things separately. And it's very difficult to affect change when you're doing things by yourself. Because so let's say, for example, as a Black woman attorney, I'm only 2% of the lawyer population, right? But I could do so much more if all of the lawyers in the United States were on a united front about some specific issue, right? And so I think one of the things that I would stress for anybody who wants to do something and make a difference doesn't have to be, in the legal profession. It could be anything, but find ways where you have some sort of connection with other people, where you guys can unite and do things together, because we're going to be able to do a lot more together than we are by ourselves.
Well, that's amazing. It reminds me, a close friend, business partner of mine, someone Odell Bazell. He has a speaking tour that's just been phenomenal, and it's like what would Dr. King and Malcolm X teach if they were alive today, or some. And part of the discussion we've had is, how powerful it would have been, and maybe it was headed there, because as we both know, they were both murdered. Like, if they were able to partner and collaborate, where would things have gone? And this is years ago. And as we see now, with all the information that everyone has, there's almost very little excuse for folks not to come together. If I can ask you a little more difficult question, what keeps folks who know better, what keeps them from joining together?
That's a good question, because I'm definitely not one of those people. But what I think it is, or my hunch is that it's pride. I think a lot of people feel like they want to accomplish things on their own, or they feel like if they're a part of this specific group and they kind of can focus on themselves and not focus on anybody else, if you can, and I really think some of it is just putting yourself in this mindset where you really just don't care about other people. I think there are a lot of people that can trick themselves, and literally trick themselves to think, well, every decision I make only affects me. So long as I'm good and so long as I'm happy, doesn't matter. But we know that that's not the case. We have to make decisions collectively as a society. Same thing when it comes to voting, right? I know we've got different political parties, and everybody's got all their different beliefs, and some people care about certain issues, some people care about other issues. For me, I try to think of, when I'm making those types of decisions that are going to impact literally millions of people, I try to think of what is going to be the best decision for everyone. Yes, for me personally, but you have to take that step back and realize, we've got to make that decision that's best for moving forward. So we can take this last election, the presidential election, for example. I think a lot of people were hurt by a lot of decisions that Donald Trump made. Doesn't matter what political party you were. I think people just saw our country was just in complete turmoil. And so when it came down time to vote in November of 2020, a lot of people had some hard decisions to make, but I think some people just said, listen, this is one person, this is who we got. This person may not be perfect. So we've got Joe Biden now in this position. Now we've got Kamala Harris in the White House, as well as the vice president. And you can pick and choose and say all these different things about these different people and say, I don't like this and I don't like that. But when you think about the alternative and what 4 more years on the Trump would have looked like, I think people that voted for Biden and voted for Kamala Harris made a great decision. But I know that everybody doesn't think that way and doesn't think like me. But personally, that's how I am. I think we've got to do a little bit more togetherness.
That's great. And I love, it's something we don't often, and I say we loosely, that there's so many things that need to happen or that other folks need to do. However, for those listening and engaging right now, there's also a lot that we can do. And sometimes comments like that get some pushback. But I ultimately know, as I try to just learn more, is that there are few things that I am in complete control of. Few things. And there's a lot of accountability with understand, or even having that conversation, or you being willing to answer, hey, what can we do better as a society, as people? And that's an ongoing discussion that for folks that absolutely want change, this is what it's going to take. You doing some work, that the person listening, us as individuals doing our own work. Last question, then I'll get out of here. What is a question you wish other people would ask you, but they never do?
Oh, that's a tough one. Wow. I know that's a good one.
It can be about work, life, whatever.
Yeah, no, I guess maybe a question about decision making. So what would be a decision that I made or a decision that I didn't make that had the most impact in my life?
Oh, I want to know that. I want to know, do you have an answer? That was, what was that?
Well, I mean, I think going to law school is definitely going to be one of them. But for me personally, it was reconnecting my life back to Christianity and making that decision to be a child of God and be saved. Truly, it's opened so many doors for me. Everything that I do with my business is because I know I'm fulfilling God's purpose. And I think, not to preach with, to anybody, but
Sorry.
I really know that like everything that I do and having that purpose behind it just makes the process of doing it so much better. I have a lot of friends that I know probably feel stuck or feel like, they lack motivation to get up every day, especially lawyers, right? Sometimes that work can be really draining and daunting. So knowing that everything that I'm doing is for a greater purpose or a greater good, for me, has really changed and shifted my mindset on life. And I'm so excited to continue my journey.
Wow. Thank you very much for being so transparent and open. I'm not going to lie. You deserve one of those. You deserve it, or you work for it. You worked for it, spent some time here with me, based with me along the way. And okay, I said last thing, but okay. So for that for the folks that want to be a part of, not just the 2%, but of something greater than themselves that are watching this, listening to this right now, what do you say to them? What can you say to the younger version of you that's listening right now?
Yeah, I think I would say to that person or those people to think about the things that you do well. Think about the things that you're passionate about, but also more importantly, think about people that you can impact. And then when you have that in mind, go out and do it. That's it. It's that simple. I think I made so many connections and have been able to do so much because I was, I at some point I just got fearless and just said, I want to learn more. I want to help people. So stop thinking about things in this way where it's almost like this negative talk where you feel like you can't do something. Don't worry about what you can't do. You can learn a lot of things. Just think about what you want to do. Then go figure out what you need to do it. And then that's it.
I absolutely love it. How can people find you, learn more about you, and even book you as a speaker for their organization or on their college? How can they find you?
Absolutely. Yes. So you can reach me on my website, blackesquire.com. You can also send me a personal email. I'm at Aigne, AIGNE, at blackesquire.com. And if anybody is interested, obviously, in law school, please don't hesitate to reach out. I do consultations. I also would be remiss if I didn't mention that I am doing a pre-law Black Esquire Academy bootcamp this summer. It's going to be July 30th to August 1st. It's all virtual. So if you go to my website, go to my Instagram at black.esquire.llc or Twitter at blackesquirellc. You can find information about that. It's going to be a weekend long. It's going to be amazing, something you don't want to miss.
Yo, thank you for mentioning that, Aigne. I can't thank you enough for being here. Again, another round of applause. I don't play any games here. Only the best walk across these mental flight school streets. So I'm super glad. And what's interesting just about, connections and building relationships, this connection happened via Clubhouse. It's on a Clubhouse. You popped in and we connected, and I'm really glad. I'm one of those folks. I don't know everything, and it's I want to say when you have an open vessel, things can flow through it. And the more, open I just become to learning more and wanting to learn from others, the more my life is enhanced and grows consistently. So I think the same advice will work for others. Just be more open, because when you're open, more things can flow through you and because of you. And you never know what doors will open as a result, as we continue to try to create something greater than ourselves. So folks, as I get out of here, remember 24/7, 365 and 14 days a year that you're good, you're great, you're worth it. And you do not have to be perfect. You simply just have to be willing to make a little bit of progress, because effort on fire beats knowledge on ice. This is Stan Pearson, the second. You're to hear first. Have a good one. Peace.